Hi, my name is Joe White, and I'm hearing about the camping ordinance. Me and myself, I've been homeless for the past 3 years because I can't find a job, and without a job, I don't have a place to live. Yes, there are shelters, there are places that you can stay, but there's only one shelter in Colorado Springs, and that's the Salvation Army shelter. And for certain reasons, if you do something wrong, like for instance in my state, I was staying there for about 3 weeks, and I got one of my best friends, which is like a brother to me, ended up in the hospital. He got diagnosed with stage 2 cancer, and they put him on a lot of drugs in the hospital, so I had to drive him home. And since I wasn't back by 10 o'clock that night to the shelter, I got kicked out. And when you get kicked out of the shelter, you cannot come back for 3 months. So in those 3 months, you have nowhere to stay. And Colorado Springs, I don't know if people know the statuses of the homeless. But Colorado Springs has one of the biggest rates of homeless people in Colorado Springs. And I'm trying to get a point to where, okay, we need a place to camp. We need a place where we can go at night and we can be safe from getting arrested by cops. Because if for instance, like we camp in Acacia Park, we're not allowed to do that because we can't camp on the streets. And the homeless shelter won't take you. The only place you can camp is a public area. It's like within a park or something like that. And I'm trying to maybe even get, if I have to, get a ballot so I can walk around Colorado Springs and even ask people, not just homeless people, but people itself, if we can, what their opinion is on homeless on the streets. Because I mean, I know myself, I don't like having to camp outside and then have a chance of getting arrested. Because I mean, I go out every day and I look for jobs, and there's no jobs right now. So, if y'all would be advised to let us get a ballot and try and get a camping place, because 2 years ago they took the camping ordinance away, so we're not allowed to camp in city limits now, and I would just like a place for us to stay. It's a piece of property. There are just allow us to camp in the parks. That's all I can say.
Joe, there's one other person I'd like to comment on the same issue, so I'll address both your comments at the same time if you don't mind. So the second individual is Raven Martinez. And I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes. Okay, basically, again, yes, I'm addressing the camping ordinance. My opinion of this is not from a personal perspective, but more from a legality perspective. I'm just going to read what I put on here. As a citizen of the United States, one has a given right to life, liberty, and property. These rights are protected by both the 5th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. In Bowling versus Sharp, the Supreme Court interpreted the 5th Amendment Due Process Clause to include an equal protection element. The 14th Amendment states no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of these laws. Knowing that sleep is a necessity of life, every American citizen has a right to sleep, regardless of their status, and homelessness is considered a status. Now, the camping ordinance ultimately denies, the camping ordinance ultimately denies one the right to sleep, therefore denying one the right to live, based on their status. And I have to ask, how many people have been arrested for setting up a canopy with blankets and food and taking a nap and having a picnic on public property, whether it's a Memorial Park or Acacia Park or any of the other city parks? Because I see that quite often throughout the summer, but I've never heard of anybody getting arrested simply because they had a blanket, food, and a canopy. However, if there was a homeless person, now if a homeless person sets up a canopy, they have the exact same things, blankets and food with them, will they be told to take down their canopy under the current camping ordinance? If so, then the ordinance is based on status and therefore unconstitutional. If not, then it leaves too much discretion in the hands of the individual law enforcement officer, making the ordinance overbroad and unconstitutionally vague. When one is homeless, where can that person sleep? If they set up to sleep on public property, they would be violating the current city ordinance. They will be told to leave and told of a shelter, possibly told of a shelter that they may go to. And that, of course, if they have nowhere else to go as it is, that would be their only alternative. Now, this amounts to incarceration in the shelter without a violation of law having been committed. This also violates one's right to due process in that it allows for arbitrary enforcement as well. And when you criminalize a non-criminal act of necessity, such as simply sleeping or living, you greatly increase the possibility of that person committing other crimes, as well as decrease that person's ability to obtain employment. And State versus Folk, number 96-19569 found that a city ordinance which punished innocent conduct, such as sleeping or camping on public property, violated the defendant's right to be free from cruel and unusual punishment, which is protected under the 8th Amendment. I ask you to look at the constitutionality as well as the long-term effects of such an ordinance. It starts essentially a domino effect that negatively impacts an already hurting economy. How much does it cost in taxpayers' money to pursue such a case? We have to have change. If we want a better economy and overall society, then the government, federal, state, and local, must change the way they conduct business. And criminalizing acts of necessity is a business, not a way to protect our American citizens and their rights, which is what the government was actually formed to do. It kind of brings to mind for me the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, as Albert Einstein said. And quite frankly, that's why I say we have to have change now, because we cannot continue to do the same thing over and over again. So I would say that the best possible thing would be to pass a new ordinance that would repeal this current one. That would possibly say maybe you can sleep during certain hours, or if you didn't clean up after yourself, but was not so broad as the current one is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In response to both comments, not this council, but the previous council did pass a no camping ordinance. You're absolutely correct. Quite honestly, that ordinance went through all the legal reviews that you referred to. It did go through and make sure that we were constitutionally correct in that ordinance. In addition, that ordinance has been viewed nationally as a model by some communities what to do. And quite honestly, our enforcement of that no camping ordinance has been hailed internationally by our police department. Obviously, this council can bring forward another ordinance if they are so inclined. But as of yet, I've yet to hear anybody say that they would like to do that. So I appreciate your comments. Now, to go back to Mr. White's comments, our concern. No, this is not an argument. You got to talk, so now it's our turn. To go back to Mr. White's comments, if his concern is finding additional shelters, I think that is a valid concern. And Mr. White, we will do everything we can to, if you would give your contact information to the lady that's sitting right behind you, we will do everything we can to help you find the appropriate shelters for which you addressed in your comments.
But the factor is what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to find a place for us to camp.
I understand, but this I want to be very emphatic. The city has a very effective no camping ordinance, and I'm not about to tell you that I would allow you to violate that ordinance right here. So thank you for your comments.
Real quick, you just said that the previous one the previous council actually passed this ordinance and it went through all the legality measures, your city attorney and so forth. But I just want to put out there how many laws in our government, federal, state, local, have been passed, went through all the legalities, and later come out through the Supreme Court to say, no, what, this is not constitutional, and therefore repealed. That's part of the judicial system in this country. Thank you very much.
And that's all I have for citizens discussion. Item number 5.
Approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 25th, 2011.
The best place to reach me is
It's Jeremiah. Do you work with her at all?
Yes, she's actually a part of what I do. So is he.
My name's not important.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Not important?
Not important?
Yeah. I'm also known as Mario.
This is the best place to reach you.
Is at Acacia Park.
Okay.
That's where I'm always at, and if I'm not there, you can either talk to Chris.
Christopher Curry.
Okay, and Christopher.
That's cool.
Curry, C-U-R-R-Y.
Okay, make the sauce. Okay.
Or you can.
Are you in the park, or do you have contact information?
Yeah, fine. Address. Do you need my address or your phone
Or your
number?
email? Do you have an email or a phone?
Phone number 8.
And also, you can get a hold of me through. You can get a hold of Raven.
Okay, Raven, do you have? Do you prefer email or phone?
Either or and both.
Okay. What's your phone?
620.
And my email
Oh, okay.
is.
Through the complete process of this whole country. I mean, the judicial system itself, how many laws has the Supreme Court overruled that went through a legality?
And
That's like saying, well,
then
we
Christopher.
did it.
Do you have an email?
Yes.
Some other people did.
8.
Is there any chance we would have a meeting today, or when do you think the meeting will be?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm not exactly clear what the direction was. I'm going to talk to Principal Hente. If you're looking for a place to camp, I'll tell you that. Do you know of any other communities that allow camping in public parks after hours?
Yes, actually, there's several. If you would like to set up a meeting, I can show you several court cases, other states, circuit courts, cases where that exactly does happen.
Because I will go as far as taking this to court. Really, I will. Because
Well, you should see if the ACLU has any interest in it before you go further to see if the local ACLU has any interest in it.
Actually, I don't need the backing of the ACLU. I know what my rights are, and therefore
Well,
stand up for them.
It adds to the positivity.
Right, it adds to it. At the same time, the lack of it, is not going to stop me.
Because typically in the past, the ACLU has weighed in on these when the decision's been made. So you might want to just meet with them and talk to them about.
is there any chance that what they say could overthrow what they say?
No, I mean, the way the process works is if the ACLU has a concern, they will write a letter to the city and they'll state what their concern is, and the city will have a chance to respond. That's how it works. But that might be an avenue for you to approach first. Typically, parks do have hours, so.
For
In addition to no camping, there's no being in a park after
For instance, Acacia Park, right now, Occupy Wall Street has, not Occupy Wall Street, but Occupy Colorado Springs has a permit for camping on Acacia sidewalk.
They actually have a permit for uses of the right-of-way, yeah, not the park, but they can be in the
Yes, but
right-of-way.
they have
And there's not
public
supposed to be
property.
camping, is my understanding.
Public property.
It's just supposed to be
Can I ask you
information.
something? Do you know of any person at all whatsoever? I know you just asked if we knew any different societies or anything, or states that allow the sleeping in the parks. Do you know of anybody that's able to live life without sleep at all?
No, I get you. Believe me, I understand your perspective on all of this. I'm trying to help you figure out how to bring a case forward in a way that's very constructive, and that might be hard.
And
So the best way to do that is to see what other organizations will get behind you. You can talk to Bob Holmes with Homework Pikes Peak. You can talk to the ACLU. See who else wants to get behind you
I'm
on
going to
this.
talk to my lawyer
And then
about
you can talk to an attorney, and they can come back, and there's a process for that.
So I understand. I
they'll
actually
write a
had
letter.
regulations passed in North Carolina, Hope County, where I used to live as well.
And my
but-
brother got a Camp City, like what we used to have here. Actually was called Tent City. In Oregon, my brother got a Camp City open, and it's been open for, I think, 4 to like 6 years now. And they do perfectly fine.
Well, is it a city-sponsored camp, or is it privately or nonprofit?
I don't technically know. I'm going to have to look.
Former Councilman Tom Gallagher brought this concept forward.
Is the sole person that voted in opposition of the camping ordinance.
So he had talked about that at the former KOA campground on Nevada Avenue. So this has been discussed. But to get a response from council to change an ordinance
See, but the thing
is going to require
for instance,
you
right
to sort
now.
of find your other constituencies.
More people.
And
See what the factor is right now. One of my friends, Steve Bass, is being
We are in that process. He's
in
at
court right now for and I'm sorry, but
maybe we should go over here just because. Because the echo understand what
It wasn't too technical or anything.
No, I think you stage your points very well.
3 minutes is not very
I
long.
know it's not very long.
I was very nervous.
I know. I thought you all did very well. But my advice to you is just if you find other constituents, I mean, whether you can or can't, you can still choose to pursue it. I'm with you on that. I get that. That you might want to see who else is out there willing to take up this cause. There used to be.
We need to get sponsors, in other words.
Well, you need to just find other constituencies. Like I said, the ACLU, Homework Pikes Peak, talked to Bob Holmes about it. I mean,
Bob Holmes, who's that?
He's. I can get you some contact information. He's been sort of overseeing some of the homeless services in the community and advocating for additional shelter
Yes,
space
we
and
need
transitional
all the
housing
people
and that
that
kind of
Right.
thing.
There's also an issue with those homeless, like say pamphlets that the city puts out, or the information that is said, okay, this is out there to help the people. I actually have an extensive list of what I'm calling homeless outreach, and I'm putting together real phone numbers of real shelters that are there to help people without, like, because a lot of those are, like, he got kicked out for that, but really vague and very, very selective, and therefore,
When I was at the shelter, I noticed a lot that some people are not allowed to sleep at the shelter. Sometimes the shelter's full. So what happens when the shelter's full? I mean, then you have to go to the opinion of sleeping on the streets, and then if you sleep on the streets, you get arrested. So that's when people go sleep deprived, because you can't sleep and you don't want to get arrested. So you have to walk around town all night. Especially right now, it's the hardest part of the time. This is the main reason why I started now.
Winter.
It's because it's wintertime. I've literally walked on the side of the road in Colorado Springs and seen people frozen to death because they had nowhere to go.
Yeah.
That is the reason why I fight for what I fight for.
Yeah.
Because if those two people would have had a place to camp, they would still be here right now.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know that this will take, even if you went, this takes a lot of time, the process does. So that's
Although I
It's-
do personally, I mean, me and him kind of, we're both for the same thing, obviously, the repeal or abolish the ordinance. However, I think we kind of look at it from different points of view. He has like a personal perspective. I look at more essentially the legality of it, and therefore, I mean, I can
That's
see.
why we work so
going-
good together.
Right, and therefore going through with, like right now, Steve's, that is just, you know, essentially saying guilty, not guilty, whatever, in hearing right now, but, you know, we can also.
There are
we'll
many
definitely try
supporters
to
over
pursue
there
that
and
as
people
well,
talking as
because
well.
that changes law also. I mean, I don't have to have them, I need one judge.
Right, but it does take time. I mean,
Oh, I
get on
know,
a-
I understand
prepare
that,
arguments, get on a docket, so I'm just,
Yeah, no, I know.
I mean,
it's not
it-
if there's something we
it-
can do to
I
put you
mean-
in contact with resources, that is sort of the direction they gave, was to try and help put you in contact with
Yeah.
resources to get for your specific
See,
issue.
what the
Seems like
thing
you
is
know, you already have a list of resources available to
The
you.
thing is, like, what he kind of made me mad about is he's like, okay, we can try and open up more shelters. Okay, yes, that is a good thing, but some shelters only let you stay there for a certain amount of time or overnight.
Or that's essentially a Band-Aid on the fact of the matter is the real problem is that it's unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So put a Band-Aid on it like that and say, yeah, sure, we'll open more shelters, but that's not.
In terms of the city's
True
investment,
fix.
I mean, looking at it from their sort of policy perspective, this does begin to, they have to consider this kind of input and determine whether more money needs to be invested in services for the homeless, jobs, that sort of thing. I mean,
See,
it's part of their overall
See,
policy.
and plus right now
piece.
I'm going to be getting in contact with. You remember when people went to court for the camping ordinance, right? I have a number of a person that I can talk to about him because he voted against the camping ordinance because he was homeless himself, stuff like that, and he knows all the diplomatic stuff to say. So I'm gonna get in contact with him, and then I have him behind me 100%. So the more people I get behind me, the farther I will get, because the more power I have on my side, and if I can sit in front of a judge and have a conversation with him, and I can get a judge on my side, they don't even have a word to say, because the judge takes over what other people say. So,
Yeah, well,
am I right or am I wrong?
I think that, I mean, I don't really want to get into a debate about it because I'm not completely versed in the issues, but I can tell you from a process standpoint that it's a long process to get a judge to rule on a city ordinance. So that's what I'm saying to you, is that there are other ways to maybe address it in the interim. I'm not trying to discourage you at all from continuing with the cause.
You won't?
It's an issue that seems to be perennial. It's something that our society has not fundamentally addressed in any sort of way. I mean, it's largely just camping. It's larger than just camping in a park.
They're addressing it by creating the ordinance.
Yes.
Well, I mean the
But,
underlying problems.
Homelessness.
Of homelessness, of poverty, of health.
And it's not
of
going to go away.
wellness.
It's going to get bigger.
As I asked,
The Occupy is a visible sign that this is not going to get better.
For people to sign, not just homeless people, but regular people. If they would have gave me that, and they would have seen how people feel about the homeless. See, some people, yes, some of the homeless people, yes, they get kind of rowdy and stuff like that, and I can't control everybody. And I mean, I can't keep every. Once I get people behind me, and I mean, it's just, some people think that it would be a good idea for us to have a place, so that we don't, because as they're doing now, because I bet you anything, when the new Colorado Springs is finished, they're not going to let the homeless people in there, because they don't want it to look bad. That's what they started. That's what they started here, because the old Colorado Springs, that's where people used to be, regular people and homeless people, and then they got tired of the homeless people, so they opened this new Colorado Springs, and then now they're opening the new one, and I bet you this time they're not even going to let homeless people in there.
I'm not clear what you mean by Colorado Springs. So would you clarify the new Colorado Springs, the old Colorado
Well,
Springs?
okay, you know how old Colorado Springs used to be the original.
Old Colorado City. Is that what you're
Old
talking
Colorado
about?
City
Okay,
used to be the original Colorado Springs,
Right.
and
yeah,
then
that's okay.
and then that turned into the old Colorado Springs, and now this is somewhat the new Colorado Springs because it's downtown.
Well, that was Colorado City, and it was the capital of the Colorado Territory. We can talk about this one. This has been, I mean, that was a long time ago. Colorado Springs has been here since, what, like 1871? So that's why I'm confused by old. But I understand Old Colorado City enacted the Business Improvement District, and the county created camping ordinances and that sort of thing. Manatee did it as well.
And the new downtown, when it gets finished, they're gonna do the same thing. And I mean, once the new downtown gets done, maybe things will get a little bit easier for us here, and maybe people won't be as harsh about the homeless people.
What area do you think is the new downtown?
That's by Academy.
The Academy.
Oh, that's the
Or
great.
it's the Citadel or whatever.
Yeah, there's a plan to do that. There's also a plan for North. I mean, there are lots of plans, so there's improvement planned all over the place.
But the biggest thing really is, you know, how we're saying that, you know, that is a very big thing that's happening in our world today, the homeless and, you know, people that don't have a place to sleep. And, you know, the ordinance, unfortunately, it's hurting that situation more than it's helping it, you know, because we do have we are overpopulated with homeless people, which is why they had that tent city by the river over there, you know, and, you know, and instead of addressing it, we kind of just went about it to just kind of put the, you know, the force on it with the police to be able to enforce, to get them out of there, and that's not helping it, it's hurting it more, because every day more people are losing their jobs, and a lot of the homeless aren't homeless because they want to be, you know, a lot of the homeless people end up losing, you know, their house, you know, they lose their
I know, it's fair. I was born to a homeless mother, so I get homelessness. It's just in terms of, when you talk about a ballot, what you're talking about is a petition process to get onto the ballot, an ordinance that would allow camping in downtown, or allow camping in public parks in Colorado Springs.
The main thing I would like to get done is for us to be able to camp in the parks.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get that done by you're probably not going to get that done by a petition process, largely because of, and this is me, this is not the city council. You're probably not going to achieve that simply because of the love this community has for its parks, and they're going to see this as a way of
the only time I'm asking for people to do this is after
we need to have a love for the people, not for property.
I'm just telling you that you need to build your constituencies, you need to find who your allies are, and then come back with what an ordinance would look like. It just takes a little bit, it's going to take you a little bit of time.
And another question was, is there anybody here that I can talk to about maybe getting a permit for, because, as you know of Colorado Springs, Occupy Colorado Springs, they have the tents on the sidewalk. Well, I don't agree with everything they say, and if you want to make a comment about that one, you can. About the Occupy Colorado Springs corner. Those tents were donated by the people for the people, and they're trying to say that, like,
well, it's unfortunate. I mean, the biggest thing is that the permit's been signed and it's official, you know what I mean? And
it's not a camping permit, though, and that has to be made. We will not issue a camping permit.
Yeah, but
I
think maybe some people have that confused, but it's a business, more or less, right now.
It is a revocable permit to allow the canopies to be in the right-of-way for the purpose of distributing information, but you're not supposed to be, Occupy is not supposed to be camping in the right-of-way.
It's a distribution center, it's not a business.
Yeah.
They're not.
So there's no, I'll tell you right now, that you're not going to get a permit to camp in a city park.
The thing is, I'm wanting to spread out on the park, because there's 4 corners of that park. The more corners we take over in that park, the more people will see what's going on in the world. And what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to try and get another permit for the southeast corner, and so and I'm not asking for all the tents that they were asking for. All I'm asking for is 2 tents on the left hand side, the left and right side of the southeast corner.
The revocable permits are issued by a woman whose name is Sue Motz, and I can send you her contact information. I don't have it right now, believe it or not.
Well, I'm gonna step outside. I want to thank you
Yeah,
for taking
sure.
the time to talk to
Yeah,
us and,
thanks for coming
and
in.
giving us some advice and some.
Yeah, it's a long haul. I mean, people have
I'm
been
here
working
for
on
the-
this for hundreds of years, I would say. I mean, it's
But
just
it-
a
but it-
perennial
but it's-
problem.
it's a-
And
but
what
it's-
happens typically is people cycle in and out of homelessness, and so your advocates sort of change over time. But
I've been homeless since I was 16,
yeah, well, I mean,
and I was forced to be homeless.
it's possible that you won't. I guess in my history of activism and in my sort of own studies and teachings, I mean, it's a very difficult issue. So it's
It's
Just-
not fun, especially
It's
at
not
nighttime.
fun, especially in the middle of it. Find other allies and continue to
Conquer.
provoke,
Yeah.
in a sense. And I don't mean that in a sense of going out necessarily and breaking the law, but continue to say, hey,
Well, I mean,
provoke the conversation, stimulate the conversation.
for
you know.
instance, we made a point to people about how the camping ordinance is. About how many days would you say it was when they get arrested?
It was on the 5th.
On the 5th of this month.
Remember the 5th of November.
Mhm. That's the- I know.
We had put tents up on the southeast corner, and all we were doing, and we weren't camping, we weren't doing anything wrong. We put up tents, and we were just giving out information and stuff like that. And see, I don't want to point anything out, but I don't know if someone called the cops. The cops saw it. I don't know facts, but they got arrested because two people stood for what we're talking about, and that's what's happening in Denver. People are standing up, people opening their eyes, and I mean that's what needs to happen. People need to open up their eyes and see what's actually happening in the world. The government is slowly falling apart, and it's just a matter of time before it does. I mean, you look at the stock market. How much has it gone down within the last couple of years? I mean, some people are talking about that we might run into another depression, and I actually do see it.
We're talking about the double dip recession here.
We're like $16-some trillion in debt. It's not good.
It's only going up.
Well, I will send you the information for the woman who does the revocable permits to see. I believe the folks who hold the permit currently are going to be having a meeting with some of the leadership in the city of Colorado Springs. I don't know who that meeting is with to talk about the permit, because I believe it was a 30-day permit.
Yes,
so they got.
See,
So they're going to review it. They were going to evaluate it over that 30 days.
See, I want to get a permit for the southeast corners, and as they say, we are not a part of them, but we are a part of Colorado Springs. We go by the rules of Occupy Wall Street. I don't know if you know them.
Yeah.
But they're very simple, and they're very blunt. And when someone says that they're a business, it's handing out information and talking to people is not a business. You're not getting paid for it. You're not.
Well, I haven't read the permit. I don't know the details of it, but Sue Motz is the one I believe coordinates the revocable permit, so she could talk to you about it. So I'll email you her contact. Do you want me to copy you? I can copy you so that make sure you get the information. So between the two of you can get it.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for talking to us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, good luck.
Done.
Nice work.
Sure.
I'll get my stuff real quick.